Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the regularly scheduled Ways and Means Committee meeting. I'm Councilmember Abdi Warsam, I'm the chair of the committee, and we have Council members Cunningham, Fletcher, and Vice President Andrea Jenkins, and we have a quorum, and therefore we can conduct our city business. Today, I have 34 items on consent and one item which is a receive and file. And I will start with the consent items. Item number 1 is a gift acceptance from independent sector for staff travel and lodging expenses for the Chief Equity Officers Roundtable at Upswell, Chicago in Chicago, Illinois. Number 2 is a gift acceptance from Outfront Minnesota for tickets to the Outfront Gala. Number 3 is a bid for elevator and escalator maintenance services project at Minneapolis Convention Center. Number 4 is a contract amendment with B&D Associates LLC for increased costs for masonry work for the public service building project. Item number 5 is a contract amendment with Grazzini Brothers and Company for increased tile and stonework for the public service building project. Item number 6 is a contract amendment with Schindler Elevator Corporation for additional elevator work for the public service building project. Number 7 is a contract amendment with Lejeune Steel Company for additional structural steel supply for the public service building project. Item number 8 is a contract amendment with Kevitt Companies for underground utility work for the public service building project. Number 9 is a contract amendment with Premier Electrical Corporation for electrical work for the public service building project. Item number 10 is a contract amendment with Danny's Construction Company, LLC, for structural steel work for the public service building project. And number 11 is a contract amendment with Modern Piping, Inc. for mechanical work for the public service building project. Number 12 is a contract with Prevolve, Inc. for workplace systems furniture for the public service building project. Number 13 is a capital long-range improvement program ordinance. Number 14 is the 2019 levy for special assessments relating to nuisance conditions, unpaid administrative enforcement fees and fines, and Tenant Remedy Act. Number 15 is a contract amendment with Hennepin County for cost sharing of Minnesota Family Investment Program Employment and Training Services. Number 16 is an agreement with LexisNexis Risk Holdings, Inc. for exchange of information. And number 17 is a contracts for culturally specific capacity building. Number 18 is the 2019 Affordable Housing Trust Fund Award, 2019 SRO Shared Housing Pilot Program, and 2019 Affordable Housing Trust Fund Contingency Pool Recommendations. Number 19 is the Home Ownership Opportunity Minneapolis Program Impact, and there's a note that an amendment has been distributed for item number 19, amending sub-item 2 to include 2 contract numbers and contract end date. I'll move approval of this item as amended with the consent agenda. And moving on, item number 20 is a MOU or Memorandum of Understanding with Hennepin County related to managing and supporting the Office to End Homelessness. Item number 21 is a grant from the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority to develop a health dashboard of high-rise residents in Minneapolis. Item number 22 is a Minnesota Department of Health grant for outreach to vaccine-hesitant parents of Somali descent. And item number 23 is a master grant contract with Minnesota Department of Health for health services. And item number 24 is a community solar garden agreements. Item number 25 is a DWI court grant for police liaison and DWI defendant monitoring services. Item number 26 is the mutual aid agreement with Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. Item number 27 is a mutual aid agreement with Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Item number 28 is the Hoya Heights Waite Park Residential Street Reconstruction Project Approval, Assessment, and Areaway Abandonment. Item number 29 is the capital project closeouts and appropriation and revenue adjustments within the city's capital projects, enterprise and grant funds. Item number 30 is a mutual aid agreement with other public works agencies for training, preparation, and response to natural and man-made disasters. Item number 31 is a cost participation cooperative agreement with Hennepin County for North Loop Reconstruction Project. Item number 32 is a contract amendment with Custom Products and Services and Stone Pros LLC for sidewalk and parking lot snow clearing, removal, and ice control services for special service districts. Item number 33 is a contract amendment with Maya Contracting Inc. for Hennepin Avenue Water Main Replacement Project. And we're going to jump from item 34, but item number 35 is also on consent, and that's the 2020 financial policy updates. Receiving and filing a proposal on updates to city's financial policy for 2020. And I move approval of all items that I've just read. And I will be joined by Councilmember Palmisano as well, and as well as Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussions from my colleagues on the consent items? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? Those items have been approved. And now we're going to go to item number 34, which is the third quarter financial status report. And we have Mr. Lyle Hodges, I believe, here to give that report. Oh, there's a discussion. Yes, Ms. Hodges.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Warsame, members of the committee. I don't have a formal presentation on today's third quarter report, but just want to give you a brief overview that the financial results of the city are similar trajectory for the second quarter report, and we're not expecting any significant changes to those projections.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right. Is there any questions from my colleagues for Mr. Hodges? All right. Seeing none, I move approval of the item number 34. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against? That has been approved. Thank you very much. Since we have no further business on our agenda, go ahead. There was none.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, there was a question from Councilmember Fletcher regarding the item number 35, which is the 2020 financial policy updates. You want to give us an overview?
Sure. Mr. Chair, Councilmember Fletcher, I think there's two parts. One is I wanted to add an addendum on to Lyle's comments. We, as the council is aware, twice a year undertake a bond sale to fund various capital improvements. This fall, we are selling, actually tomorrow, bonds for the remainder of the downtown office building. As a part of the bond sale, we receive bond ratings for the city from Standard & Poor's and from Fitch. Those bond ratings are essentially the city's credit reports. I'm happy to announce that the bond rating agencies did affirm the city's current bond ratings. We have a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's, which is the highest possible rating, and then a AA plus rating from Fitch. Fitch's concerns historically have been over pension costs and over the amount of annual debt service that we have, even though we tend to pay that debt off very quickly within 2 or 3 years. And so we would be, and I will be distributing a copy of those reports to you, but I think it's an important element of a city's financial report. It's not just about how we are doing on revenues and expenses, but also how we are doing overall from a third party who looks at cities across the country and compares us with them. And I would say overall the bond ratings reflect very well on the city in terms of just our direction and our trajectory as not just a region, but actually as you as elected officials, in particular ways and means in terms of the financial reporting and the financial policies that we do. And that is a lead into, I think I'll turn over to Mr. Intermill. Every year, and this is important to the rating agencies, is that we don't just pass a financial policy, our debt policy, our investment policies, and that it just sits on a shelf and nobody ever talks about them. And so one of the things we have done is every year as a part of the budget process is to actually bring forward any new financial policy recommendations, and as a way of increasing the visibility of those financial policies, we also started last year talking about those financial policies ahead of the budget process in the Ways and Means, and so there could be a discussion. So I think there's just one financial policy change this year, and certainly Mr. Intermull can go into more detail.
Yep. So, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Fletcher, in anticipation of the question I think you were going to ask, which is what is the change that staff are proposing? As Mr. Ruff mentioned, it's one change under the authority of the finance officer section. And it's related to contracts, and what it says is to make minor changes to insurance requirements, coverage and limits, defense and indemnification, and similar provisions in contracts after consultation with the city attorney or their designee. Before exercising this authority, the finance officer must first develop, implement, and administer a procedure in accordance with legal and risk management guidelines describing the circumstance under which changes may be acceptable and the reasonable limits to the changes which may be made under this authority. And so the intent behind this change to policy is to really just cut down on some of the administrative workload, or when risk management staff and the city attorney's office believe that it is acceptable to lower the required insurance from those we contract with, rather than bringing that contract back through council, bringing that amendment through council, giving the finance officer the authority to make that as staff. So it's really just an operational efficiency thing, and looking to our deputy CFO and CFO, I think that we could, as we draft that policy, if the committee is interested, we could share the policy with this committee.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chairperson. I actually want to go back to item 34 because that went by very quickly, and if I understand correctly, we voted to receive and file a report that was just verbal things are okay. I just want to make sure we are getting a written third quarter report at some point and that we're kind of following procedure.
So, Mr. Chair, I believe in the committee, or in the actual agenda is attached a very thick document, okay, which is a third quarter report. And so that the details are in there, and certainly if you have questions about that, I think this third quarter report is important to us as staff, so that if we see direction, so for example, if development is falling off quickly and we're concerned about next year's budget and not having adequate revenues given where trends are today, then we would bring forward that news to you that says, oh, hey, council, as you start into the budget process, please be aware that trends are not looking so good, and so we may need to pull back on some of the one-time spending, for example. I think Mr. Hodges' remarks were intended to just demonstrate that it's situation normal, right? So there's nothing happening on the overall trends, as all of the staff that are accountants that report up to Mr. Hodges monitor each department. And if there was anything either on expenditure or a revenue side that we think deserves some discussion, we would have brought that forward to you today. I think the good news is things are as what were projected for the 2020 budget today.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. And seeing no further items on our agenda, we are adjourned.